Hi, so I'm going to explain this question. Okay, it's a very common question in comprehension these days. It reads like this. Explain how the language used in paragraph X shows something. Okay, and then the last part of the question goes, support your answer with 3 details from the text. Okay, sometimes it may be more details, sometimes it may be fewer details, okay, but usually it's 3. Right, it may seem a bit confusing at first, okay, but we are going to take a look at the keywords. So these are the keywords highlighted in purple. Okay, the first one is explain. Okay, as you know, explain requires quite a bit of elaboration, detail, and above all, concise language. That's why we keep emphasizing on vocabulary, because you need it in order to explain something clearly. Okay, and then the language used. Usually, language used refers to adjectives, certain verbs, certain metaphors or similes that the writer may use. Okay, and then 3 details, of course, that's important. No more, no less. Okay, now that we know the keywords, I would like you to take a minute to think about what kind of approach you would use in order to answer this question. Alright, is it A, use one sentence to explain? Okay, since it says explain anyway. And then you give 3 quotes from the text, meaning you answer very literally, okay, according to how the question asks you. Second approach, okay, use 3 separate sentences, okay, and then each sentence explains the language first, okay, and then you follow it with a quote. Again, you are following chronologically, okay? And then the third approach is to use 3 separate sentences again, okay, and then you give a quote first. The difference is that you give the quote first, and then you explain each of them. Which one would you choose? Right, so if you picked approach C, you are correct. Okay, this is one of the idiosyncrasies of this question. Although we ask it as explain first and then 3 details, you are actually supposed to provide the details, okay, each of them, and then you explain each. Alright? Now let's take a look at this example paragraph, okay? Beads of perspiration were trickling down her neck in the heat, and she swiped them away with a free hand. The other was tapping on the table, her fingernails clicking against the polished wood. Her eyes darted around the room restlessly as she let out an exasperated huff. Now imagine I have given you this paragraph, and then I ask you this very question. You are supposed to apply it to this paragraph to show that this girl called Jane is impatient. Now let's take a look again at the paragraph and take a few seconds to look at all the possible details that could be our answer. Okay, let's look at the first detail. Beads of perspiration were trickling down her neck. Do you think this is the answer? Okay, it's actually not, because this is referring to the beads of perspiration themselves, okay, not her. Although, yes, we do associate people who are impatient with sweating, with perspiration. That's not always the case. Okay, it doesn't actually show she is impatient. Not exactly. Okay, so that's ruled out as an answer. What about this next detail? Swiping them away. She swiped them away with a free hand. Okay, yes, this is possible because swiping itself is a very rough, careless motion. She didn't wipe them away, she didn't dab them away, she swiped them away. Okay, you usually swipe when you don't really care about something, okay, which shows that her mind was preoccupied with something else. Okay, even this physical discomfort, it doesn't matter to her. It's something very trivial, so she's just carelessly swiping them away. Now let's consider this next detail. The other hand was tapping on the table. Does this necessarily mean someone's impatient? Maybe, maybe not, because tapping on the table, yes, it can be associated with impatience, but it can also be someone's quirk, just like how people like to tap their feet, for instance. Okay, so perhaps this may not be a very good detail. Okay, I ruled out her fingernails clicking against the polished wood because this is merely an extension of the previous action, okay, and it's nothing more than a sound, a movement, so it doesn't really reveal anything about her mood. So the next one that presents itself is actually her eyes darted around the room restlessly. Okay, how do we explain this? Now the word darting, okay, it means to move quickly, but it never rests on a place for long. Okay, you move here and there very quickly. Alright, so it it actually matches up perfectly with this word restlessly, okay, to show that this person's focus is disrupted. She is unable to concentrate for some reason, okay, and this is likely to be her impatience. She is waiting for something, and that is what is disrupting her focus. And finally, the exasperated huff. Okay, this is possibly the most obvious one of all. Now, I would like you to think for a moment, how would you explain exasperated huff? So now comes the putting it together. And this would be your full answer. Okay, if you look at it, you'll notice that I used first, secondly, where is it? Secondly, okay, the second detail, okay, and then lastly. Okay, this is to show the examiner that yes, you have addressed all of the points. Okay, you have given 3 details. Okay, so look, I quote first, okay, and then explain. Quote first, and then explain. Okay, quote, and then explain. Okay, so this is an example of how you should answer this question.